மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
Okay, well, we can't leave the subject of the Alekhine defence without considering knight c3 by white on the second move. Against this, I recommend that black stick with the individual flavour of Alekhine's defence and play 2d5, countering in the centre. And now there are two moves for white, really, which deserve consideration. Our featured game is from China in the year 2005 between Xu Tong and Ning Chunhong. And there, white played e5, after which black played d4. But on the third move, white can also take on d5. Knight takes d5 and then bishop c4. And this is a system I've seen crop up many times among young players and amongst club players, who by and large like tactical sequences. White's idea is that if black takes on c3, he plays queen f3. And then gets a position where he's slightly ahead in development. But that's about all. Okay, black can do this if he wishes, but it's more ambitious to play knight b6 in this position. And after bishop c3, bishop b3, play bishop f5. This is an idea of Grandmaster Lev Albert, who of course was one of the most famous of Alekhine defence practitioners in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even today. Now, what is black's idea? Well, basically the idea is to complete development in the most coherent manner. Black plans e6, he plans knight c6, he could fix his attention on the d4 square. He'll certainly, if allowed, play bishop e7 and castle on the king side. The real question is, can white interrupt this plan? Well, queen f3 is one disruptive move which black has to know about. And there Albert discovered that queen c8 is not only the only move, but it's a pretty good move as well, because it protects b7, and at the same time the bishop on f5 is now reinforced. After this, there are two lines for white which deserve consideration. The first of these is primarily tactical. White takes on f7 and then plays g4. This is not especially dangerous for black, but he has to know what to do. The first move is knight c6 in the correct sequence. And here we see black focusing on that key d4 square, with the possible continuation: g takes f5, knight d4, queen e4, c5, knight f3, and then queen takes f5 with an equal position. Of course, after knight c6, if white takes on f5 with the queen, then black just simply swaps off and again plays knight d4. With the fork on f5 and c2, well, there's no real way that black can be worse in such a position. So going back now to queen c8, I think white probably does slightly better than that, just to concentrate on normal development with knight e2 here. But black's plan, black's position is not really too worried after that. He just plays e6. Then we get castle, for instance, knight c6. White may play d3, and then black just continues with bishop e7 and castles with a very comfortable game. So e takes d5, knight takes d5 will be common among lower ranked players, but it's not at all dangerous to black, in my opinion. Going back to bishop f5 one more time, white may well prefer the straightforward d4 to the hijinks of queen f3. Well, once again after that, black sticks to the tried and trusted plan, just getting out his pieces. In effect, this is a fairly simple sequence of moves to understand. It's one of many sequences, I dare say, where black just brings his pieces out and plays to equalise the game, which I think he successfully has done in this position. I mean, I don't see any reason why white's got an advantage. This is one typical sequence. White may choose many different sequences in this line, but by and large black's plan is very straightforward and very similar to that which we've seen already. Perhaps he might substitute the move knight c6 for c6, but the reason I played c6 and a5 this time round was that I thought as white was going to cast on the queen side, we will get some sort of reception committee waiting for him with the move a5. and c6, of course, lets the black queen into the game. So just a few sequences from e takes d5, which I hope represent the type of play that you'll have to face. But going back to the main variation then, e5, d4, we now get a relatively forced sequence where white takes on f6, black takes on c3, white takes on g7, and black takes on d2. And now there are two very separate moves here. Right, in the first of these moves, we're going to focus on bishop takes d2. That's Hector's favourite. Bishop takes g7 and then queen f3. This is the way he likes to play it. Primarily tactical, in a way a kind of bluff, because a lot of his opponents haven't taken on b2 in this position, which is precisely the move I'm going to suggest. I mean, if there's any move that's going to call white's plan into question, it has to be the principal move, bishop takes b2. And now I'd like to take you through a number of possibilities for white. Well, the first of these is rook b1. That's the most natural move. Bishop comes back to f6. Bishop goes to c3. Bishop takes c3 check. Queen takes c3. Rook g8. And now white can try the move rook d1. Well, against this, I think knight d7 is a good move. And black recuperates basically in this line by playing pawn up to e6 and then queen to f6. He may play pawn to c6 as well. I don't think white has enough compensation for the pawn in this particular line. So going back to bishop takes b2, you would expect somebody like Hector to make a move like bishop c4, and after that, of course, there's only one move. That's pawn to e6. All right, well, now it's really down to white to demonstrate why he's actually sacrificed this pawn. Maybe rook b1 is the way. After that, bishop f6, knight e2, knight to d7, and whilst analysing this position with Fritz, it's become clear to me that white probably doesn't have enough compensation objectively for his pawn in this position either, with ideas such as knight e5 coming into focus, ideas like c6. This pawn sacrifice, again, looks rather dubious. Bit surprising that that Hector's opponents haven't actually gone in for this. Going back to bishop takes b2, there was a game, Balashov versus Timoshenko, a high-ranked game actually from Moscow in 1989, where the immediate rook d1 was played. Perhaps Balashov felt, well, black's got to be a bit more careful after this. And certainly it's true, black is threatened by the move bishop c3 in this position. So queen d6 was the move that Timoshenko played. Bishop c4 was played, and black ran away with bishop f6, knight e2, knight c6. Well, okay, black is almost certainly threatening knight e5 in this position. So Timoshenko played bishop to c3. Bishop took on c3 check. Queen takes c3. And now the passion-killing move, queen to b4. Okay, bishop to b5 was played by Balashov. Queen takes c3 happened. Bishop d7 happened. Knight came into d5. Rook went to c8. And white castled. And now a6 is probably the most accurate move here, with perhaps a slight advantage to black, because it's hard to see how white's going to carry this attack on any further. Once again, black seems to emerge with slightly better game. Well, at least Fritz thinks this is better for black. So that was Balashov Timoshenko, and once again, white's compensation, in my view, is falling short. So coming back now to Xu Tong versus Ning Chun Hong. Perhaps this is why white took with the queen. White's intentions in this variation are less ambitious. He's hoping to get a slightly better ending out of it. But, well, once again, with accurate play, black can negate this advantage, in my view. It's too simplified a position for white to hope for too much in this position. So anyway, first up, white's got to think about his pawn. He tried c3. Bishop came out to f5. Bishop came out to c4. And black played knight d7. White played knight f3. Knight b6. Bishop b3. And pawn up to e6. And both sides castled on the queen side. Well, already this position has a very drawish look to it. Perhaps this type of thing indicates why this isn't particularly popular at top level. Black is just able to simplify the position too easily, and so the following course of the game shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. Black manages to keep the balance with accurate moves. Well, bishop e3, knight d5, bishop d2 was already offering a draw. Black with bishop f6 was indicating a willingness to play. Bishop c2, bishop g6, and now bishop takes g6. I think I would have been slightly more reluctant to make that move because it enables black to connect his pawns. But white envisaged an endgame situation where he was going to drive a black rook passive, and the rook h came to f8. White played g3 all the same. It's hard to believe that this game is going to end in anything other than a draw. Knight came to b6. Rook came to d5, refusing to give ground in the centre. And once again, this position has a very drawish look to it. So, knight came to c6 there. Knight went into h7. Rook came to d8. Knight comes back to g5. And now black just simplified even further. Okay, he has to go backwards for a very limited amount of time. But after f6 and then e5, the two players agreed to draw. Knight endings are similar to pawn endings. Yes, white can get the outside pass pawn by going h5, but well, knight f7 keeps the pawn under control, and then black can centralise his king with king e6. If anybody holds the advantage here, it's probably black. So the two players agreed to a draw. And equal play very much summarises the story of this variation. Knight c3 should be answered by d5 and e5 with d4. Quiet play is usually the main result of this, but black shouldn't be too unhappy with that.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.